First line mascot.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Connected Kinesiologist Monday meetup for Monday, June the 21st. I'm Angela Pereira, the co-administrator of the Connected Kins Facebook group, together with Rebecca Adaman. And this evening, we have a good friend of mine, Darcie Jaremey, and she'll be talking to us about ergonomics certification and getting involved in the ergonomics market. And before Darcie introduces herself, I am just going to turn this over to Sean to say hello to everybody.
Hello, my name is Sean. I'm currently a Master's of Science student at the University of Waterloo. I'm a course-based student. I actually went there so I could pursue the educational requirements to become an associate ergonomist. And yes, I'm very excited for this session in particular, just because it's directly down my my current interest, at least.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you. Welcome, Sean. And then over to Catherine. Hello.
Hi, I'm Catherine. I pretty much a new kin, graduated about a year ago, wrote the exam in September. Right now I'm working at a small physio clinic in Sarnia, help out with kin-related stuff around the clinic, and I'm also a part-time receptionist and teach some virtual exercise classes as well. So.
Nice. You jumped right in. That's just great. And hello to Darcie. Go ahead and say hi and introduce yourself.
Okay, it's my moment to shine. So I can literally say that I like long walks on the beach. I've always wanted to say that in introduction. I live in Prince Edward Island, and the beach is a minute drive from my house, so we go to the beach very often. I grew up in Ontario. I was a registered kinesiologist. 2 years ago, we made the leap of faith. Literally, we made a leap of faith. Me and my family decided to just get out of Ontario and try to get land in Prince Edward Island. So we drove here with no jobs, we sold our house in a matter of 2 weeks. Yeah, sold it for 2 weeks, made our decision, sold our house in 2 weeks from London, Ontario, and we moved all of our family and our 3 kids all the way out here. No job, nothing. I've had my business online, so we can talk about the different opportunities for online business, no matter what field you're in, and how to leverage yourself in this new age that's only going to be getting more and more online. So I took a leap of faith, and honestly, when it comes to making a decision for ergonomics or online business or any of these magical things that you're interested in kinesiology, it a lot of the times is about taking that leap of faith and trusting your intuition to what you want to do, and ignoring the procrastination and other elements that that may be holding you back. So we can talk about that because I think that's a really clear thread. But let's talk about my credentials. Master's of Science in Ergonomics. I'm a certified professional ergonomist via the DCPE system. I'm well aware of the differences between that and the CCCPE, so we can talk about that if you'd like. I've been doing ergonomics for 15 years. I worked at one of the biggest ergonomics consulting firms in the world. I've done workers' compensation work for prevention ergonomics, where I did participatory ergonomics there for a number of years. I consulted, then I worked on I managed a big in-house ergonomics program to the tune of more than 10,000 employees. Then I started my own consulting firm after the birth of my first child. So like I can talk about all these different levels of ergonomics, how to get into it, employer services, and yeah, like I'm here to answer your questions. I have some slides made up, but I'm really here just to chat to you as laid back as possible. So maybe it's best if you have any questions, like we can start a discussion and maybe we can thread that through. What do you think, Angela?
Sure, that's fine. Maybe what we'll do is if you unshare your screen, and then we'll go kind of, there we go. If we go just back to our panel of everybody here, and if anyone here has any particular questions, let's just toss them out there, and then we can just go through Darcie's slides after that, keeping the questions in mind.
All right, so Darcie, I actually do have a question. So what was your first role in ergonomics? I'm asking this particularly because I just got my placement, and I kind of it's such a broad broad field that I feel like I don't really know what I'm getting at, you know? So I was just, I'd like to hear what your first experience actually like within the fields was like.
Okay, and I can ask you some questions to help your perspective on this too. For me, I did my bachelor at Dalhousie, Bachelor of Science in kinesiology at Dalhousie, and it was very ergonomics focused. So I was able to get a really good idea of ergonomics right from the get-go. Like one of my first courses that I took there, and I did an independent study and in industry. I did it at like a tire manufacturing plant there in my 4th year. And from that allowed me to hedge that to do the consulting work in the States from there, because there was people from Dalhousie working there. So it was a combination of where I thought the opportunity was combined with the network that got my start. But it seems like you had a question about like if it's office or ergonomics or like a host of other, industrial ergonomics, because I want to get more narrowed down to what your interests are, because you really need to have a passion in this because it's a long haul, especially if you want to be certified.
Yeah, well, okay, so currently I'm working in a industrial manufacturing facility. I don't know where I want to end up because I haven't had experience in ergonomics. This is my first field experience. I've never had to do a PDA before. I've never had to do like technical reports for anybody outside of school before. So this is my first real experience at it, and I don't really know where I want to go. What I do know is that this is a this is a particular interest to me because like I did in my undergraduate at Brock, I minored in labor studies, and I realized most people work the majority of their lives. So I really do feel like before I wanted to do a clinical work, I wanted to work one-on-one with people, just because the catharsis of seeing people improve is it's a great feeling, and I feel like I was passionate about that. But I realized with ergonomics, you can affect people on a macro scale, and at the end of the day, like I said earlier, people spend most of their waking hours working. So if you can improve the quality of their work, you can improve the quality of their life. And at the end of the day, I feel like I can still get the catharsis out of that. So like, point is like, I'm excited for the overall topic. I don't know where I want to go into the topic because I don't have the experience yet. I'm working right now in an industrial manufacturing plant, but like what I'm doing, I'm just doing the manual materials handling type stuff, right? But I was wondering what your first experience was like in particular. Like I realized the research project is I guess it could technically be a field experience, but I was considering more so like work experience separate from academia in ergonomics.
Yeah. So what I did, and like you'll learn a lot of the stuff as you go. Like I started with purely ergonomics assessment. So like NIOSH, SNOOC, all that stuff, right? And it wasn't until about 4 years in to doing this that I did a physical demands analysis, and I was taught how to do that. Yeah. And
I thought you'd be doing those kind of right off the bat because it's no. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of ergonomists, they depending on the organization that they work for, maybe there's enough work for just doing ergonomics assessments. I guess it depends how the company leverages and makes a business case for what they do. But I found when I got first started in ergonomics, I had age on my side, and I realized that I could only have this at a certain point in my life. It's a little bit different now with COVID, of course, but I moved anywhere. I would move anywhere for a job, anywhere. That would give me a little bit of a step up. So I moved from Ontario, Nova Scotia, the States, back to Nova Scotia, even though I'm from Ontario, that's where the jobs were. Then I moved back to Ontario, then I moved to another city in Ontario, and then I moved out here. But that was the biggest benefit to what I was doing. And I would, like I said, I didn't care what I was doing as long as I would learn something else, and it would expose me to something else, and it would be more challenging. And that was my credentials, and that's what allowed me to grow. And it could be that it was something that I was very uncomfortable with, but it was in the natural progression of learning, whether it was ergo/disability management, is that is something that maybe in your avenue, or maybe it's office ergonomics and PDAs, and someone will teach you and someone will see that you have a good foundation having a master's of science, and you'll have the opportunity to figure out what you want to do. So that would be my piece of advice, Sean. Like it's not really a piece of advice, but does that help? Does that give you a little bit of leverage?
So like essentially just look for a mentor, right? Like that's what it sounds like, right?
It's a combination of getting the real world experience, because a mentor is fine. Like I can be your mentor. I can help you navigate this, but like you really, I feel like it's those employer services and getting that taste of it. Like I never had a mentor at all of this, never. I've had people in companies that I was drawn to and helped me while I was there, of course, but I always had this idea of moving forward with ergonomics, whatever that would be, whatever would make me into a more rounded, experienced person.
Right.
It's a matter of searching out those products that you don't yet have a familiarity with. So you're looking for all the different parts of what makes up an ergonomics or occupational health and safety role. And if something is new and different, go after it and say, how do I learn that thing? And it might be you work 6 months here and 8 months there, and you find a mentor, and then you learn how to write some reports and you get those critiqued. And so it's a matter of being flexible and then just following the next carrot, really, to figure out all the loose ends there. In your master's program, Shauna, you're going to be able to be exposed to doing these wide range of assessments and report writing and being included in occupational health and safety committee meetings, disability management committee meetings. Yeah.
My placement is, I got it myself. I ended up contacting Fanshot to get it, actually. So Waterloo didn't actually offer many ergonomic placements this year. So I ended up getting, like, the work I'm doing now, it's in health and safety. Like I'm technically a health and safety intern. So I'm working under a certified registered safety professional. But at Waterloo, it was a course-based master's. I was directed to take a bunch of ergonomics courses, but they fell through. The only ergonomics course I ended up being able to take at Waterloo was a reading course. So we didn't end up doing any practice. We ended up doing a systemic review on ergonomic tools, but again, no practice. Actually, one of the things you mentioned, Angela, kind of spurred something on for me, at least, in that you got to like find the tools to be able to practice. So one thing I've noticed, I attended the International Ergonomics Association convention last week, and it seems like digital human modeling is becoming more and more prevalent. And especially because how time consuming like doing biomechanical modeling like by hand is. How did you go about learning, or if you have knowledge, Darcie, on digital human modeling, how did you go about developing that? Because at least one issue for me as an unfunded student is that these programs are very expensive, and that how can you develop those skills? How do you develop those skills?
So are you looking to be that? You brought up human modeling. So are you talking about what's that, the 3D SSSP type of thing?
Well, that's one of them. Like so I have to write technical reports as well, and in the technical reports that they showed me, there was a lot of the 3D standard, the 3D static strength prediction modeling, but there was also some Santos stuff to just do low back loads and whatnot, and also it helps with getting the max voluntary contraction without like through the modeling software, as opposed to doing it by hand, right? Like that was my idea of what it was used for. But it's not just for like static stuff, right? Because Santos can be used in like moving models. But I feel like that's one thing that I'm supposed to be doing now with industrial in the industrial manufacturing plant. And also one of the things I'm supposed to be doing is I'm supposed to help with the selection of tools that they're going to be bringing in. And also I feel like digital human modeling would help with that quite a bit. I figure that is a very, very useful skill to have, especially considering in technical reports, they do expect a biomechanic model, to my understanding, as one of the one of the tools you use or one of the things you show.
Yeah.
And doing it by hand is extremely time consuming. So if we're considering like growing as a professional, I think
Mhm.
that taking away things that are time consuming is a great benefit, right?
Absolutely. And maybe that is like your niche, because at first the first thing that you came up with was like, where should I go? What should I do? And you brought up a really good point. That could be your niche. It really could, doing that technical side, because um, where I've really fallen into, and it's probably because I just have a real passion for it, is like the employer services. So maybe I'm not doing the things as skilled as you are, but I can navigate the system for the employer, and I can direct people maybe to your company who are going to do the more extreme types of ergonomics assessments to that. And back in the day, yes, I would do services like that. That was ages ago. And my point with this is that like there's different avenues of ergonomics. If you wanted to pursue that, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And how you would have your expertise, and how if you wanted to just have that and be work for an organization, or you wanted to start something on yourself to add value to other ergonomics companies, or other maybe not ergonomics companies, but like employer services companies. Like there's value in all this, but it's almost that the biggest thing when it comes to that side is how you sell your services, because it's like that knowledge is great and you have it, you have a passion for it, but then how do you position that to employers or whoever your end customer is, whether it's other employer service companies that would be offering the service or employers themselves. And that's the trick that I've learned over time. So that's why I'm kind of fallen into, because of my choices, the employer services navigation, because most employers or other, like, maybe it's a kinesiology type of company doing physical demands analysis or functional abilities evaluations, which is perfectly great. Like, it's great, you're helping the employer. But even the idea of ergonomics, to many organizations itself, they don't even know what ergonomics is. They don't, but they know it as symptoms that we have to sell it as. So like that, like having that opportunity too in your line, like the opportunity is there, but how do you sell those services, whatever you want to do, that you should consider at this point too.
I think that's a great advice. I think that you would be wise to go after something that's narrow and deep. So if you've decided or you've identified that there's a niche here in very, very high level specialized assessment, that might be really, really cool, because when you look around at other ergonomists, well, what are they offering? Not that. And so if you're realizing in your current work term that if you became a real expert in this particular kind of assessment, and you identified the market for this kind of assessment, and that market had deep pockets, they were big employers that really needed this kind of assessment or modeling done, that's perfect, because then you would be recognized as the go-to person, and your team eventually, because you'd be so busy you wouldn't be able to manage all of this on your own. So what Darcie's saying, which I fully agree with, is look for the biggest marketplace that you can offer the most specialized service to, and so that you can scale that service to the biggest marketplace possible. And then all of the offshoots of that particular kind of assessment could be other products that your company or that your associates that provide. So you can either refer that work out to other people, or you can say, oh, that's our X division and that's our Y division. And so we offer a soup to nuts service, but our real specialty is doing these 3D modeling evaluations. And maybe you work with a company like my partner's company, who does machine learning and AI around the world from their laptops. So they're working on assembly products and trying to fit this model into a place where they can take this model and then pitch it to other companies. And they need a group that would help with the modeling of that into human systems. So the ergonomics field can work with machine learning and artificial intelligence and not necessarily with the individual worker. So there's something there that I think you may have stumbled upon.
Yeah, but like, how do I get the education in 3D modeling to begin that? Because the issue I'm having right now is that it's extremely expensive, and I'm poor. I'm unfunded, and I'm working full time at at Statistics Canada, so I can, you know, afford the education. But I can't really afford like a $250 membership to do modeling right now. Like this, the internship I have right now, it's not paid, right? Like it's like I'm getting just over minimum wage at Stats Canada, and I don't really have extra income to as an unfunded student with no like TA ships or RA ships in the last year. I spent all my money on education. I don't really have much more. Like I need, yeah. So yeah, I don't really know how to.
Totally hear you. So it's me actually talking to my partners saying, is there a market here for an ergonomics arm, a human factors arm in the arm you're designing? Is there some application where you could take 3D modeling and also work on the ergonomics of fitting that model into a workplace where there's humans interacting with something that they've designed? So we'll have a chat on one of our walks and I'll ask about that, because maybe there is a way you can connect with these various 3D modeling AI companies and help them with that interface of machine learning and human factors.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all in that's all in time, I guess, at this point, right? But in the short term, there's not really much I can do then, other than like I should just reach out to the companies.
Well, yeah, there's and if there's so many options, right? Like there's quick wins to pay the bills.
Yep.
There's more long terms that you could be working for in the background. It all depends on what you want to do and whatever progresses your career or your awareness or your knowledge of the ergonomics. And really, like when I was starting off, I was real. I took anything I could get. I really did.
Yep.
Like I moved halfway across the country to get a job. I moved halfway across the country to get an internship. Like I just did it because that was the only option, and there was zero other options that I could see that would move my life forward to where I want. So
there was something that just came up today, Sean, in the Connected Kins group, and I don't know if you saw it. It was someone who was looking for consultants to help their company Bayshore do physical demands analyses and functional capacity evaluations. That's something that I would suggest for the short-term funding of your education, and also getting your feet on the ground with someone supervising you, teaching you the ropes of JSAs, PDAs, and FAEs, FCEs, so that you're actually working under someone who's editing your reports and giving you some guidance for record keeping, helping to show you the ropes of those skills. And so you would be working with a team who would support you in that work, and you're gaining the skills and getting an orientation to disability management, which then you can leverage, as Darcie was saying, and then you've got that suite of skills and you go to the next opportunity and you add some more skills. But if you were able to start in a place where you were doing office ergonomics, JSAs, and FCEs for an employer who is just sending you referrals, that might be an interesting place to start. What would you think about that, Darcie?
Yeah, that would be an interesting place to start. If that is something that Sean would be interested in. And it comes down to networking. And you already started it with the IEA stuff, but this being aware. Are you part of the ACE? Are you part of ACE? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a student member for ACE, and
Great.
I
There
have
you
a
go.
student membership for actually I'm a student member of like a bunch of associations at this point.
So here's something here. Christy, who I used to work with actually back in the day, she's saying that they're looking for kins who can do functional work capacity assessments, ergonomic assessments, functional job coaching as a contractor. So they would get referrals and send them over to you. And that would be a good place
Yeah.
So
to
two issues with that. No, first issue is I'm not
Okay.
an RKIN currently, so I don't think I'm technically in good standing with the COKO because
Okay.
I'm not an RKIN, and I don't
Okay.
have 2 years experience of doing this stuff. I've never done a work capacity assessment, nor have done functional job coaching. The only thing I've done on the list is ergonomic assessments, and I've done a couple of them in courses, but I've still yet to submit any of those in practice. So I don't think I have any experience there yet.
So what I might recommend is always push the envelope. I would approach them and say, could I start working with you under the understanding that I write the RKIN exam in September? And I've already got some work samples that I can submit to you. Would you mind taking a look at these? I don't have the 2 years of experience, but I do have experience and I'd like to show you some of my work. So I wouldn't let what it says in a job ad deter you at all from something that you want to do. If you present well, there's an opportunity.
This is also about like, this is a conversation I had at Waterloo as well about like presenting your merits as well, because I love the idea of telling people like, oh, I'm passionate. I'd love to learn about this stuff. But at the end of the day, I really do think merit matters, right? Like I want to be able to say that I had experience and like real experience, and I've actually I've given it to a client as opposed to the university. That at the end of the day, like it is about making money too, right? Like it's not the quality of my work might not be completely correlated to it, like what it actually is. I feel with schoolwork, compared to like practice.
I don't know.
I
I
could be
wouldn't be
wrong.
too quick. I wouldn't be too quick there. As an employer myself, if you showed passion and you had high quality reports and I could follow your critical thinking, I'd bring you on board.
Okay. Well, I got to finish the reports first, and then I got to figure out a way to do the stick and poke, not the stick and poke, not the tattoos, the stick models. The stick models, and then I guess I'll go from there. So I should have that done in July, and I guess I'll see where that goes. So you guys were also talking about like creating a niche within the field. So I have a question about the field of ergonomics in Canada in general, given that one of the things that was mentioned at the IEA was that given that we have an advanced ergonomics program now that graduates about 40 AEs a year, and that's been going on for 4 years now. How saturated do you think the market will end up becoming? Because I know that was a talking point at the IEA, at least. Zero saturation.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
There's this idea of like competition and saturation, right? I kind of think that they're all scarcity mindset, and like think of it like coffee places, right? Like how many coffee places are in your city? How many physio places are in your city, or like massage, right? Because there's been zero competition for ergonomists up to this point. However, ergonomists have always done, and I'm saying this because the very first person in like my first real job said, and it's not me, so you can't blame it on me, but I think it's true also, ergonomists are the worst marketers out there. I think it's probably true for most healthcare professionals.
Means there's lots of opportunity. That's all that
There
means.
is lots of opportunity, and messaging is so important because we know for a fact, and I say this all the time in my training and the people in my programs, that it's not a matter of if an injury is going to happen anymore, especially with all the things going on and people working from home. It's a matter of when. So it's about how to position yourself for those long-term clients to have that know, like, and trust factor, and have the messaging that's sophisticated enough for who you want to work with.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not saturation, it's just like market sophistication.
That's all it is
marketing. Yeah.
finding that niche, figuring out how to speak with them, speak to them. They'll find you, guaranteed.
Yeah. There's been literally zero competition up to this point compared to any other healthcare profession. So maybe they're saying that, but like the goal of many of these ergonomics programs is to be hired as a full-time employee. And there's always been lots of competition of people doing that. It's like always, the cream always rises to the top, right? So I feel like and it's just going to be better for the profession in general.
Exactly.
Because the rising tide will make everyone better. It's going to help with marketing, because you know how expensive it is to educate a market that you're going into about ergonomics. It's expensive. So
it takes a long time.
It's good to, yeah, exactly. So they're going to be aware that ergonomics is more involved, and then it's just about marketing your services in ergonomics, or getting a full-time employment gig with someone else who's like, hey, yeah, ergonomics is really important. So it will take time, but I don't think that there's ever going to be too much competition or too saturated of a market.
Look at all the employers out there. Look at all the injured employees out there. That's never going to change.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just finding, Sean, what you want to do. That's the main thing. And what your gateway for entry is to the ergonomics profession. And it may be that for the next 5 years of your career, you're doing stuff that you're not really liking. And it's not that goal of mine for you want to do computer modeling. When I first started, one of the first jobs said that CAD was going to be huge. And like I should focus on that CAD. But I always thought, like, that's a little bit strange because I'm not a computer expert. I don't like that. And I think that person is trying to sway me in a different position so that I don't do what that I want to do, and he knows that I want to do. So yeah, I mean, like this has been a thing more than 10 years ago now, but to get yourself into a position to be doing that, you might have to do odds and ends jobs with the idea that every time you do an odd ends jobs, you're getting the experience, and at least you know what you don't like. And maybe that's what you're like, hey, I don't like important. That. It's going to add clarity, so you know what you do like. And that's what happened to me.
I would agree. I think it takes a good 3 to 5 years to figure out what that is, and don't put any pressure on yourself. And it's, it's easy to say, 25, 30 years later, when you can pay the bills, that when you first start, it's a scramble. It's not easy. It's not fun. Know that you're going to be sweating a bit for that first 3 to 5 years, but every single year you'll realize, oh my gosh, I've come a long way, and you'll be gathering this box of skills and tools, and then it's just going to drop into place because you've got your head up, you're attending the conferences, you're taking courses, you're networking, and all of a sudden someone approaches you with an idea because you've been listening and watching and engaging in conversation. And then all of a sudden you're like, this is perfect. Well, you designed it. You kind of willed that opportunity to be because you've been talking about what you want to do to all of these different people, and it just pops up. And it really does happen that way. And it really does happen probably between that 4 and 7 year mark, I would say. Would you say that, Darcie? It takes a little while to get your feet wet.
Yeah. And even understanding the whole corporate shebang too, and how ergonomics fits into that, and the joint occupational health and safety, and networking with human resources, and doing key indicators and leading indicators and all that. It takes time to really have an appreciation for all those data points. So yeah, 4 to 7 years, like it does take time. It's like learning Greek or like another language or something like that. It takes time.
I have one more question about networking, and then that's everything that I had down, at least.
Good.
Okay, so regarding networking, again, this is going to come from like an academic standpoint. So like in my undergraduate degree, in my minor in labor studies, one of the big statistics that jumped out to me, at least in 2018, was that the first job post-graduation, 60% of the time it's gained through one's network. And given that the whole COVID situation this year, I like, how can you try to, leverage that given the whole like the health situation nowadays. For example, like in my master's is a 1-year program, and I've never stepped on the University of Waterloo campus or
Nice.
seen a lab, right? So like I don't like how can one network in the current health situation?
Go for it, Darcie.
Okay. Well, yes, for me, networking got me my first like 4 jobs. And I wasn't like, I have had friends of friends that are just like the best networkers ever. They're not the most qualified people, and it's not even in ergonomics, but they're fantastic networkers. And you'll meet these people. They're just like great connectors. They don't disappear into the abyss when first you meet. They're just like, they add value, they connect, they want to know you. Those people, they know what's going on. And otherwise, like me, like I just kind of, when I was first starting off, I just kind of followed in behind other people that were doing their stuff, and I was in the right place at the right time. And maybe that's what networking is too. Now I've shifted in my idea of networking because of my program and this guy, Matt Hopper. You should listen to the podcast I did with him, Matt Hopper. He's on my podcast, The Business of Ergonomics. And like, he's one of my top rated podcast episodes.
Oh,
he was only on
wow.
like a month ago. I'm like, ugh.
That's
I've had,
great.
like,
What did he have to
almost 70
say? That
podcasts.
was
He is just a real unique guy, and he offers this common sense perspective to business, and he has all these analogies. So and I mean, we all know this, like I've taken it in sales before, but it's often when it comes to networking, it's not directly related to your field. It's like volunteering for something else and just meeting people, or like, so it could be like volunteering at like a food bank and getting to know the board of directors, or adding a value and doing an ergonomics training presentation to somewhere in need that you think you might need it, and just offering your services. And then just getting to know those people, as simple as it is, or if you want to have more direct, just getting to know and adding value and to those people in ACE, the Association of Canadian Ergonomists, because
do
I'm
they
part
have a
of
board
it.
of directors
Yeah, the
that you could
directors, and they're
volunteer
like,
for?
volunteer and see what
Yep.
ways you can make our busy lives easier, or add value in any sort of thing, because quality people reaching out and volunteering, that doesn't happen. It doesn't. But if you can do that, that would be literally huge. So there's like the direct and the indirect routes that I think really would be a good use of time. And I should be doing more of it too. I really should.
So in terms of volunteering as networking, I've been volunteering this past year quite a bit, but at the end of the day, like you said, like it's very hard to keep in contact with these people. Earlier in September, I was volunteering with the COVID refugee clinics in Niagara region because I was a medical first responder. So I did about
Oh
10
yeah.
hours of that a week. But at the end of the day, I met all these nurses. I met all these like volunteers with St. John's Ambulance. Some of them were police officers and firefighters. None of us talk anymore. And then I also volunteered for the IEA 2021. I did
Oh.
I got the all the, you know how there was a handout for every session? Like I made all those handouts, but at the end of the day,
Wow.
it's
Wow.
not, this isn't directed work, right? This is work you do on your own. So you're not connecting with these people. It's just like they give you work and then you send it back to them and then you're done. Right. So like how is this, how does this work with networking? Because like I've met these people, but odds are I've sent them I sent them all an email after the conference as well, being like, oh, it was a great conference. And I think one of them remembered me. One of them like responded directly, like they knew me, but everybody else was just like, oh yeah, it was a great conference. So like could you expand on that?
Yeah.
I would loop
do
back
my job.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would loop back around. I didn't know Darcie, and I just boldly said, hey, how's it going? You sound like an interesting person. I want to talk to you. So we chatted, and then I said, you know who else you should meet? You should meet Kevin Cairns of Metrics Education. He does education about FAEs and PDAs and JDAs. And So introduce those two, and then checking in with both of them regularly. How's it going? I see that you're doing some joint projects together. How's that working for you? So looping back and actually figuring out, to be really straightforward about it, putting together a networking calendar, even saying, what are all the connections that I had that I need to go back and revisit? So that you can go back and say, we had this really interesting connection about that handout that I designed for you at the conference. What else have you done with that handout? Would I be able to use that handout perhaps to connect you with someone else that I think would really benefit from that? Or would you mind if I use that handout as part of my presentation to this particular audience, and maybe you join me for a Q&A? You know, these kinds of things create value, as Darcie was saying, create opportunities to give people a platform from which they can talk about what they do. And sometimes it's just making those connections and having those conversations that are very organic, and you're not quite sure where they'll end up, but it's just fun to keep watching the world go round as you make these connections.
Yeah, that's so true. And depending on the point of person that you want to follow up with, you have to remember that, like, even it's all marketing, right? Like, so networking is marketing, because it will make the final ask always easier, and it can always take between 7 and 13 touches. Just remember that it can take a long time, even with someone that you know, because people are really busy. Like, if someone was at the IEA conference last week, the fact if they were present to every training, that's like so much training that they have to be a part of on top of their regular job duties. So, and if they're in a different time zone, even though you didn't have to travel for the conference, everything was in Vancouver time. So that too. So just being aware and consistently, and don't take it personally. Don't never take it personally. Just like sales, you never take it personally. You're just making an offer, and consistently follow up in a valuable way, and not to make them feel bad that they didn't catch your email in the first couple of times, but add value. And really, it's just a matter of time, I think. And then if it's not, then move on.
Yeah.
So I took down like start a networking calendar as one of the topics out of that. But earlier, Darcie, you mentioned that one of your podcasts with Matt something. I don't remember the guy's last name. I just wanted to write down.
Matt Hopper. I don't know what episode it was. I would bring it up on my screen, but it's going to affect my internet.
Oh, that's not a problem. No. I can Google it on my own at this point.
I'm just saying, I would provide you value normally and do all the due diligence so I can make sure that you're doing it for our relationship. But for now, I can't.
One of the biggest things that influenced my career and consistently continues to influence my career was my 10 years volunteering with the Ontario Kinesiology Association. Because there I met politicians, I met university and college professors, I met political strategists, I met all kinds of kinesiologists over 10 years of that board of directors turning over. And I can still call people up and ask a question, ask a favor. They're so used to me calling them up saying, so I have this idea, and they laugh. They're like, go ahead, whatever. What is it now? So getting involved with an ergonomics board of directors, or, and it could be here in Canada, it could be something in the US, it could be something in Europe. Just looking to see what are the different projects that different boards of directors are working on, and could you volunteer for a committee and then apply for a board position after that. It gives you a lot of street cred, and also it really plugs you into some key people that are the movers and shakers in the industry. So there's lots of opportunities there, and maybe if there's a particular course that you would like to take and financially you might be challenged to do so, approach the instructor, because you know the instructor's reputation in the industry. saying, look, money is tight. Can we work out something? And I guarantee you the instructor will probably say, of course we can. How can I help you? So identify the people who are teaching other people and say, look, I want to learn from you. How can we make this work? That can really help as well.
Great, thanks. I took a bunch of notes on that one. So yeah, reach out to basically just reach out to like interest groups. So like that would be ACE, I guess it would be the CCPE, although that I don't really think that's they do much other than the actual certification. So I don't really know how much how well that would go, but I might as well. Yeah, and then inquire about committee positions, reach out to instructors directly, create the networking calendar, and yeah, follow up, and then also watch the Math Hopper podcast.
Yeah, I would say approach Rachel Mitchell, who's the president of the CCCPE group, and say,
Yeah.
look, you'd like experience, you'd like you'd like to connect with some people who work in this area. Who might she suggest you connect with? And do the same with Stuart Moulton, the executive director of the OKA. Do it with other executive directors of other kinesiology provincial associations. Say, I'm looking for these kinds of people. Would you know who I should speak to? And those are the big connectors. And they'll set you up and happily do it. I know that they would very happily do that for you. And even your professors, your ergonomics professors, they probably are pretty involved with Institute for Work and Health, for example. It's another group I'm involved with that they might be able to help you too.
Yeah, so the project we did in the reading course for ergonomics was with the Institute of Work and Health, and that scoping review was with them. We're currently still working on that over the summer, going for publication. So I kind of am working with the Institute of Work and Health. Although in terms of instructors, I asked all of the ergonomic instructors at Waterloo, everybody that had a CCPE, except for the one that was not in kinesiology. Actually, no, I did technically, I asked her too, but it wasn't about an ergonomics course. But I asked them if I could do a lab position with them this year.
There you go.
None of them, I couldn't, they were all full. So it's extremely hard to follow up this year. It's more than just putting in the effort, I feel, because I reached out to everybody at Waterloo. Like I don't know what more could be expected within the program, at least.
I would keep at it. I'd find out what the profs were doing in terms of their own research projects, and offer to make them lunch, offer to do whatever you need to do to see if you can secure a lab position for the future.
I graduate in a month and I'm gone.
Oh, you're just finishing. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm graduating. It was a full year program, right? Started September, it ends August of this year. We did 2 semesters of course-based work, 4 courses a semester. I was only able to get 1 ergonomics course, and now we're doing the placements. But of those courses, I wasn't able to get any in the lab. I'm done my coursework now, so I'm not taking any more. Yeah, so now I'm just doing my placement. Like I feel like that opportunity's kind of sailed, and it was just like I don't know how to make up for that at this point, right? Because like I'm not.
Sorry.
Like how is it reasonable to volunteer when you're not at the institution anymore as a student?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it all depends on what your end goal is too. Maybe
That's right.
There's other opportunities elsewhere too. It's there's so much opportunity. Just having that end goal of what you want to be doing. Where do you want, like, where you could get experience anywhere, but can you focus in a certain area that is aligned where you see yourself being in 5 to 10 years, and just start there, because that would probably be the most valuable approach to doing it.
Yeah, so at least what I'm doing for that currently is that I'm planning to go to the fan shop program in September, and I'm pretty sure that they have pretty consistent placements throughout there. So at least through that, I can get experience with other areas. I was only able to afford another year of school, so like I wanted to do something other than ergonomics to get another designation. Like I was looking at like U Fredericton for the CRSP, just so I could have a larger background. I realized that our kins can do FCEs. I guess they can technically do PDAs too, but I would prefer to do that as an AE. so that I can cover both bases there. I lost my train of thought completely. Do not remember where I was going with this.
You were looking at the possibility of connecting with Fanshawe, connecting with you,
Oh,
Fredericton,
yeah.
which
So
I think are great ideas.
yeah, I was thinking of doing that as a separate thing. But for ergonomics, currently, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to Fanshawe on the account that Fanshawe has connections already. And I think it'd be good to try to leverage that. Like, what would be your opinions on this? I know this is kind of like a weird topic, I guess, because it's extremely specific. But
No, I think it's very good, actually. Don't worry about it, Sean. I think there's a lot of people in our groups who are really looking for this kind of guidance. So they're really trying to navigate the laneways between formal education and continuing education and mentorship and experience. And we do this our entire career. And I think one of the big messages I can give to you is you're never too old or never too experienced to go back to a formal education environment. So you might pick up multiple master's degrees. You might pick up a PhD over here. Then you might do another master's over here. So you design your own journey. It's not a straight path. You may decide to do a PhD at a huge university and then decide to go to a small college to get a certification, a postgraduate diploma of some sort. It's all good. It's always all on the table. So as Darcie was saying, you're just picking up little crumbs along the way. And then all of a sudden, bad metaphor, you end up with this amazing, loaf of sourdough that's fermented for years and years and years. And it's evolved into this ideal career. And don't put the pressure on yourself to get it right out of the gate, because I guarantee you won't, and that's okay. And the biggest thing is just keep an open mind and keep talking and keep revisiting the contacts and saying, you might not know about this, but would you know of someone else that I can talk to? And Darcie will tell you, most people are very, very happy to offer their networks to others to say, okay, let's see if I can at least point you in the right direction, and they may know someone that you can speak with. So don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah. Now with that, I think that so Fanshawe maybe, and I certainly can't give you advice. Everything is from your own perspective, but I can certainly give you, I guess, things to consider. Adding on to what Angela is saying, continuous improvement, continuous growth, like that's going to be the rest of our lives, I believe. I firmly believe that. The Fanshawe program offers a lot of practical things that may be what you're looking for. I was almost involved with it when I was there living in London, but I decided not to. Good thing, 'cause I was going to give birth to my twins really soon, and that would not have worked out. But side story. Yeah, and I was working my first job, and I wanted to get a master's of science, and that was through a school in England. I did that part-time, and it took me 4 or 5 years. Did it make me a better practitioner of ergonomics? It didn't teach me any of the physical ergonomics, but England is a little bit different because it's more of the psychosocial health ergonomics, which I thought was really useful to learn, but I thought I would just be better at the practical stuff. And I think as you go through it, you'll find that the practical stuff it's good to know, it's a good foundation, but then it comes into the other soft skills of ergonomics and talking to unions and making a prioritized ergonomics. And I think that it's very, I'll end with this. I think it's very common for ergonomists in the field to start with doing purely ergonomic assessment reports or physical demands analysis, or like doing that. But then it will always shift to managing that relationship with that employer. And then it's soft skills. It's like, let's hold on to that relationship. You have an injury, this is what you have to do. And you get your whatever. So either it's your organization that you are working with, or helping them navigate to get another provider to do something. So I feel like that's, would you agree, Angela? Like hands across, like that is the life cycle of a healthcare provider. So
Absolutely. When I look at the different job ads out there, they want people, yes, who are strong in the technical skills, but can you navigate the WSIB claims process? Are you comfortable negotiating with a union? Do you understand how health and safety committees work? So it's one thing to get the hard skills, but the more complex, the more the larger positions, the larger opportunities are going to go to the people who can then do the critical thinking to bring those groups together, to design those health and safety programs that are really going to be preventing injuries, reducing costs, returning people to work, and bringing together all the clinical teams to work really well with HR, health and safety, unions, and the medical teams. So that's the mature skill set that people are looking for. So if you become a good listener and a good communicator and a good networker, those skills, those soft skills, as Darcie was saying, are the ones that will build your reputation.
There's some great insights. Thank you both. I don't want to monopolize the time. I realize I basically did at this point, but yeah, I don't have any
Totally
other
good.
questions. But that was a great, great insight. Thank you.
Oh, you're
thank
welcome.
you. I hope that was helpful. I
Yeah,
remember
Catherine,
starting off. It's tricky.
It's really tricky. It's really tricky. And you're blindfolded with earplugs in the dark.
Yeah.
For the most of the first few years, and then someone flips on this little light and you just go toward the light and you slowly start to figure out your way, one foot in front of the other, holding onto a rope. And then eventually you can jump out and you're like, wait a minute, I can make decisions here. I know stuff. And I all of a sudden have these critical thinking skills, and people are starting to turn to you for recommendations, advice, and mentorship. And you don't know quite when that happened or how it happened, but all of a sudden you're thinking, I've got skills now. Like I can actually do stuff that people will seek me out and pay for. And that's quite a realization. And it's a very organic process that starts to happen. Catherine, did you have any questions as you listened to the discussion?
Being fully honest, I don't know much about ergonomics. I never took a course in it in undergrad, and when I went to write the exam and I saw that like erg was be on there, I was like, oh my god, like what is this? But I just used like the kin pages, and I went through the Kinformation like Facebook page and just like went through all those resources there. So I'm just like trying to learn something new.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
So, yeah.
It's an interesting area. It's an area where kinesiologists tend to get paid more than in clinical rehab. And it's because of these skills that are really, really high level skills. They're the communication skills, the networking skills, combined with the technical skills. So it's extremely rewarding. And as Darcie will tell you about, Darcie, you can talk about some of your programs here. It's highly leverageable. There'll be a lot of people who want to learn from you.
Yeah, like, do you mean like, just to ask you a little bit more, Angela, do you mean like contacting to organizations and like getting training? Because like that's an opportunity for ergonomics, like that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also what you're doing with your own business. You've really shifted from working with employers, working with employees, to working with other ergonomists. And now you're starting to train people who are in our profession. You're being sought after for your advice and your education and your experience. And people are saying, help me, I've got this opportunity and I don't know what to do.
Yes. So my whole theory and practical life when it comes to ergonomics is that I try to sell courses and how to do office ergonomics assessments for years. There's so many ways to consider online courses, training opportunities, and maybe in 10 years, we're all going to have online courses and memberships and programs of something, because it could not be related in ergonomics, but maybe it's something related to your background as a kinesiologist. So I think it's incredibly valuable to think about all of this, because it gives us an opportunity to have passive income. And it's not that hard to get started anymore. But anyway, so where I was going with this is that I realized about a year ago that people going through my online course, How to Do Office Ergonomics Assessments, and that's a can of worms to talk about this too. So maybe we can chat about this. But I realized that that knowledge is a commodity. You can go online and you can figure it out by going to like OSHA or the Canadian version of occupational health and safety. They're fantastic resources, but it's the applying it and then selling it. That's where the trick is. And I was realizing that people were coming through my program, Office Ergonomics program. They're like, okay, great. How do I get a client? And it's like, okay, we can talk about marketing. And that gradually led into this whole idea of like, how can I provide resources to help get my members results as a value add? So I got them to, there's a number of different things to do this, but like the main thing is like being aware of your network at the same time. Because I just want to talk about I think this is going to be a really good conversation. Like there's so many private label courses out there for office ergonomics, industrial ergonomics, functional abilities evaluations. None of it's gold standard. Ergonomics is not a regulated health profession, meaning you can start and you can call yourself an ergonomist. It's up to you whether or not you use that term, but you can make up anything. It's not a regulated health profession like kinesiologists, physical therapists or physiotherapists, occupational therapists, all right? So there's a lot of companies, and I work with primarily Americans who I feel like they're leveraging this to feel like they were the gold standard in ergonomics training and causing a lot of confusion. People going training through there, and these people teaching these courses aren't board certified. So this is like a little twinge that I have an issue with. People coming out and they're not being as effective as they could be because they weren't getting the training via someone who is board certified, who has done this for years and years on a very high level. So that's something to be aware of. Certification, sure. If you can't get a mentor to get into ergonomics, certification courses is great, but just do your due diligence. So that's anyone watching in the future too. And another thing I want to talk about too is like making like 90-day goals, like quarterly goals, working towards them, and then realizing that we can't build like 3 different bridges at the same time, because I know, like that's the thing, as people, entrepreneurs, someone who wanted to get into the ergonomics field, like you have all these different avenues, right? So Sean, you're like networking, courses, experience, volunteering, all my other jobs that I'm doing, and you have all these bridges. And what I've noticed is that I was doing membership and I was doing course, and my course was evergreen. So, but still, like I had to manage it. I had to manage the people coming through. So what I did, I just put everything into one bridge in order to build my bridge across the water to get to my island. And that's been really useful for me. Ever since I made that change a few months ago, it's been so much more clear. So if there's any sort of value that has for you and how you're looking at your quarterly goals or building that bridge and then moving to something else, I think that'll be really useful. Because if you're like me, after like 4 or 5 weeks of doing something, you can be all burned out, and then maybe you see something else that's flashy and then you jump to that, but the first bridge was never done because the second bridge needs maintenance. So it's just like, yeah, I just want to talk about that. But
bright shiny object syndrome. Be very careful about that. Pick a goal and see it through. Yeah,
it's such a big thing, I find. Yeah. So to get to what Angela was first talking about, I provide training, content, any sort of resources, tools for ergonomics consultants, no matter where they are in the spectrum, whether or not you just want to get started, you've done 0 before, or if you've been in this for 20 years. I have everyone in my membership like that. But the thing is that everyone has in common, is that a dog?
Yay, that's so cute, Sean.
Is that a lab?
It's the pet hour.
Oh my gosh,
Retriever.
that dog is so cute.
Yeah, it's a
so
retriever.
fluffy.
Retriever.
Lap
I'm sorry,
dog.
we can't hear you. You muted yourself there.
If you saw me why I kept like going down over and over again, it's because he was growling at me. He wanted attention, so now he's getting his attention.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
as your
really.
cats. Oh my gosh, and he's acting all tame or
So-
shy.
Very fluffy.
Yeah,
though.
sure, dog.
That's so
Looking away
cute.
from the
That's so
camera. He
cute.
knows what he's doing.
Oh
I digress. But yeah, so
think-
sorry.
no, I was going to say exactly what Darcie is saying is streamline your efforts.
Yeah.
Really resist the bright shiny object syndrome, because it gets me every single time. Squirrel, and you have to come back and you have to say, no, this is what I set out to do this quarter, whether it's one course plus digging into the material and practicing it, whether it's attending a conference and following up on every session and going through the notes again and trying to touch base with certain people, and that's your goal. And you could decide to go down a path for 3 months, and each month has a particular goal, but it has the same theme. So you're not jumping all over our huge profession too quickly, and you're spending time in one lane. And like Darcie did, and like I continue to do all the time, you've seen me adjust things in real time and say, you know what, that's not working so well. So guess what, everybody, we're doing it this way now. And that's perfectly okay. And eventually you start to streamline the people that you work with, the people that you work for, your ideal clients, your offerings. And all of a sudden, like Darcie's done, it's one membership, and she's generating content, podcasts, she's generating resources. She's looking to people to interview and partner with, all in one lane. And that's what she does. And it's one monthly fee, and you're getting all of these different things that are all related, and you're just being able to learn about those things in many different ways. But it's really about around one system, one theme. And she'll tell you, it's just making her life so much simpler. So I have a lot to learn from watching that.
I'm trying. It's not perfect. I'm always learning from you.
It's never
Angela.
perfect.
It's
never perfect. No.
But it's
no,
good
no.
enough. Perfection doesn't exist, am I right?
It's right. And it's just getting started and realizing you're going to have to adapt on the fly, and that never changes. And the faster you can recognize, whoops, I need to course correct, give yourself permission to say, whoops, I need to course correct. And you guys see me doing it all the time in the Facebook group and going, we're going to offer this. No, we're not. We're going to change the date. Let's try this. And you're just monitoring, what are your members? What are your clients? What are they responding to and not responding to? And you'll figure it out, and they'll tell you if you're listening. You can ask them, like I do, and like Darcie does, what do you want to see? Who do you want us to talk to? What do you want to learn about? And then you go out and figure it out how to deliver it.
Have you ever heard the saying that an expert is just somebody who's made all the mistakes already, so there's no more mistakes for them to make? I feel like it's that whole situation.
Exactly. So you find those people, as Darcie and I have talked about. Who do you follow? Who do you follow? It turns out we follow the same people, which we laughed about. And they are the big people in our industry, and not in the kinesiology industry, but in the marketing and sales industry. And you just apply it through your own lens of whatever it is. And we've always got something to learn from people who've made the mistakes faster and more expensively ahead of us.
Yes, that's so true. I'd like, yeah, and with going with what we were talking with Sean too, I'm sure Angela would agree, this has been like years in the making. And at first I felt exactly like you, and like in my ergonomics life, but then in the online business life, like Sean, like I don't know what to do. Oh, sorry, it's not an earthquake, it's my laptop. But yeah, so I really have empathy for you, Sean, because whenever I'm starting something new, I saw a lot of commonalities between how I feel and what you're going through right now.
Oh, complete overwhelm. And I just call Darcie now and say, hey, I've got this idea and I want to head in the direction she's heading in. I'm way not there yet, but I'm able to watch her and say, well, that's a really cool idea. How can I adapt that to what I do? And she's just down the road further. And she's already said, Angela, this doesn't work. Trust me, do it this way. I'm like, thank you. You just saved me weeks of mental anguish and financial experimenting, and I can just try that. So that's all we do.
Mhm.
So you'll always find people that'll mentor you, that become friends and colleagues, and then you can, like we're doing now, we're suggesting with a bunch of other people saying, all right, what if we brought everyone together over here and did this? Well, that's cool. What if we brought everybody back together in a different way and did this? So that's what you're starting to see many of us trying out, saying, well, how can we come together and offer something that's super unique for people in our industry? It's fun. Yeah. So we'll let that land. And what I'm going to be doing in our CK group is talking a little bit more about Darcie's membership program, because I think it's very interesting. It's an interesting low barrier to entry way of learning about the field, where you're now getting connected with a large community of people doing ergonomics work. Are they certified ergonomists? Do they have masters in ergonomics, occupational health and safety, disability management? Maybe, but maybe not. Do you have something to learn from all of those people? Absolutely you do. So why wouldn't you connect yourself with a connector who has a massive following? It's growing all the time and it's becoming a snowball, right? So how do you create a way to build that snowball, and you just get sucked into that and you start learning as you go, and you just find those people that you'd really like to follow and say, that's really cool what they're doing, and how can I come along for the ride? And that's part of what we're trying to do in our community, is say, what's everyone doing? What are the cool things? Where are you having difficulties? What equipment are you using? How are you connecting? And then that way we can all work together to raise our own profiles, our own incomes, and largely our own influence in our respective areas of our field. And that's where I think we'll really start to make a mark. And that's how we'll be able to meet others who can help us, really. And you'll never, ever, ever not need someone else's help. I don't care whether you've got 6 months of experience or 30 years of experience. You still want to be able to call someone up going, do you have like 15 minutes? Can I bounce something off you? It happens. I did it today. It happens all the time. And that's when it gets super fun.
Well said.
Well, thank you, Darcie. Thank you, Sean, for your vulnerability. Thank you for your sense of insecurity at the moment. Thank you for talking about your challenges. I think it's brave of you to do that. I think it is completely appropriate for you to talk about the challenges that you're having, because I think that it's not unique. It feels that way. I know it feels that way, but you will be able to navigate this, and it won't take very long, because I can tell you're looking and you're searching and you're asking great questions. So just continue to do that, and it won't take very long at all. But allow yourself some grace and some time and some space, and say, it might take 3 years, but that'll go by so fast. And you'll look back 20, 25, 30 years from now and go, that was all necessary. And I needed to go through that tough time to be able to come out the other side going, I've really got something that no one else has. And I now know people that I can bounce these ideas off of, and who will find ways for me to use that information, that product, that knowledge, and incorporate it into what they're doing. So now all of a sudden you're a supplier to people who need what you do. And that multiplier effect is really what you're after, whether it's leveraging something online, leveraging a product or a service. that really becomes something that other people need. And that's really where you want to be.
Well, it's all about incremental progress at this point, right?
Yep. It's painful. It's necessary. Remember, your network is your professors, people that are presenting at conferences, everyone in our group of people, everyone in Darcie's group of people, and just keep reaching out, and we'll direct you as best we can. That goes for you too, Catherine. Whatever we can do to help out, just let us know. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time this evening and your candidness. And did you have any questions, Catherine, at all?
No, this
No.
was great though. Thanks.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Darcie, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sweating it out in your attic. Really appreciate this. And I know you and I will be in touch because we have a lot more conversations to have, my friend, about the different things that we are doing. And hope to see you again soon.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Great
You're
session,
welcome.
everyone. All right.